Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 216 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we have another packed show with a great interview with author Alex Grass. And we're going to talk about the movie Superhost. And it's not about Tim and I, by the way. I know you would think, because host.
Yeah, that's right.
Superhost,
it's not a podcast horror movie.
No, different kind of host.
Although it does have two travel bloggers that we'll talk about
it
shortly.
It does. Yes.
But yeah, before we get to that, we've actually got a pretty packed first chop, so let's get right into that. This is our first chop. All right, so Brian, I got a chance to, I've been, these last few first chops, I've been like, struggling to think of something to come up with. In this case, I've actually got two really, really good movies that wait a minute, let me rephrase that. One really good movie and another movie that I watched.
No.
But I did get to watch two movies. So the first one up is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. We talked about this on our Dismemberment first part. And of course, Olivia is a huge Resident Evil fan. Now, this is not a film that's related to any of the previous Resident Evil iterations that you're used to. It's not, who was the... I'm just drawing a blank on her name.
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, she's not in this one. This is not related to that. This is kind of a throwback to like the original video game. So this is like an adaptation of the original Resident Evil and how Raccoon City got started and all how the zombie outbreak got started and all that. And it's very video game-esque in that a lot of CGI zombies. It has all the main characters from the video games, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. At least.
Going
back to that.
Yeah, that was kind of neat, but it's very much what you would expect from a video game movie adaptation. I mean, let's be honest, it's very by the numbers. It has the creatures you would have seen in the video game and kind of the loosely plot. I can't even say it's really that bad in terms of entertainment value. I enjoyed it from just watching it. I wasn't bored. But it's exactly what you expected it to be. So nothing more, nothing less. So if you're a fan of the video game franchise, I would say you might get some enjoyment out of it. If you're just a general horror fan that doesn't really know anything about Resident Evil and the characters aren't going to really ring a bell for you, then I'd say you can safely skip it. The next one, though, I wanted to talk about, I really, really loved, and that was Nightmare Alley. Now, this is the latest from Guillermo del Toro, of course, who I absolutely love as a director. I've loved pretty much everything he's ever done. And I was really looking forward to this because this is, of course, his first feature, I think, since The Shape of Water, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And this is an adaptation of an old 40s movie that I have not seen, which was also based on a novel that I have not read. So I didn't know much about this at all going in. Now, I will say this is not a horror movie. This is I would say, a little horror adjacent. But it contains some stuff that I absolutely love. We both absolutely love, Brian. Carnivals, sideshows, that kind of thing. Supernatural, the occult kind of aspect. And it's about a guy that's played by Bradley Cooper that is kind of on the run from his past. So he joins up with this traveling carnival. And at this traveling carnival, he starts to get into mentalism and learning about mentalism and putting on mentalism shows. And that's as far as I'll go with it, because the movie kind of plays out the story of how he goes from kind of this rags to riches tale. And the performances are utterly incredible. I'm shocked that Bradley Cooper did not get an Oscar nomination out of this, which he didn't. He got snubbed. But it's got Willem Dafoe in it, of course, our old favorite. It's got some just fantastic performances. Toni Collette's in there. Of course, Cate Blanchett's in there. So it's one I think that you have to really settle in for. It's definitely a slow burn.
It's long too, right? It's over 2 hours, right?
I think it's like 2.5 hours. So it's one you really need to settle into and be prepared to like spend a night with and get immersed in, because I think you're going to get more out of this movie if you're really paying attention and really taking it all in, because the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. So, if you're willing to put in the the patience with this one, I think you'll be well rewarded. I absolutely loved it. I loved Del Toro's previous movie, The Shape of Water, is one of my all-time favorites. I won't say that this instantly became an all-time favorite of mine, but it's one I will have in my collection, and it's one that just adds to his body of work that I absolutely love.
So I watched a couple things. I watched, finally got to see Ghostbusters Afterlife, as was proudly added to the monolith. And I know we really didn't get to talk about it because I hadn't seen it and you had seen it in a while. So, but I still don't want to give any spoilers away for those who haven't seen it and now just discovering it on the home streaming release. But I really loved it, actually. I was hesitant going in because so far most of these movies that try and recapture that, there's always some kind of issue with it. And for some reason it had its little bit of issues, but overall I actually really loved what they did. I loved the whole basically, without giving anything specific away, just how it connected to the original characters in such a unique way that but didn't make it necessarily total in your face fan service. I mean, there were some fan service moments, of course, but I think they did it in a way. I liked how they tied it in a little bit. It felt like the natural progression that could happen.
Right.
It was kind of cool. So, it's I definitely think that fans of the original will like it a lot. I forgot, you said you did like it, right, Tim?
I liked it with some reservations. I mean, there's certain aspects of it I did not like, but I guess I could say I was entertained. I don't know that it quite lived up to my high expectations, but I liked it overall.
Because granted, obviously the dream Ghostbusters film for us would have been the four Ghostbusters getting back to, all of them together and being totally centralized around them.
Right.
You can't do that, obviously, for one, Harold Ramis's passing. But, two, also they're older, and it's I don't know if it would have, at this point, may have captured that same magic. So that, they obviously use the older original Ghostbusters in a sparing way. I am disappointed that there was no Rick Moranis. It was mention of him.
My biggest problem with it is that it's not a comedy. And the Ghostbusters movie...
That's true. It really wasn't... There was little comedic moments. Paul Rudd added a lot of comedy, but overall there wasn't... You're right. It wasn't a lot of...
Yeah, so it felt...
as comedic as the first.
It felt different in tone. I understand that there was a lot of nostalgia there, a lot of fan service, but it didn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie because there's no real comedy there. It wasn't, even the god-awful Ghostbusters 2016 was at least a comedy. And it just seemed a little weird to me that this movie was not a comedy. It was kind of an action adventure type thing. And I think that's what threw me off and why I didn't absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think they definitely went the more sentimental route.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Ivan Reitman's son is the one that did this, so he had this connection to the franchise and this sentimentality to it, and in that aspect, it really came across. You could tell it was a property that he grew up with and loved, and he wanted to give this kind of love letter to his dad and to the cast to the fans, which he delivered on, I thought. But you're right. It didn't. I realized it's I didn't find myself laughing as much. There were some one-liners that the kids delivered, but it's not Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray delivering those comedic lines.
It's not a comedy; it's an action adventure that has some funny lines in it, but it's not it's not designed to be a comedy, I guess.
Right. And that was so good about, I think, the original Ghostbusters, that they hit that perfect mark of having, a funny, really funny movie, but with, a lot of cool action sequences with ghosts in it. In this one, it was it was kind of it was, like you said, it was an action fantasy adventure with a little bit of comedy sprinkled in.
Right.
And that's tonally where it changed. But, overall, still, I love the movie as a movie itself, and I think I still maybe what would have happened years later, if in the Ghostbusters thing, and I think they've already teased that there's going to be another one, because they talked about they teased it at the end, of course, with a little bit of something. I won't say what. It's kind of a fun fan service moment, but yeah, it's definitely going to be. I think definitely they'll have a thing. Whether it becomes a continuing franchise for much longer, I don't know. I mean, I did think the new people did good, though. I like, Finn Wolfhard's always does a great performance. Celeste O'Connor, she was great in Freaky.
Yeah, the kids were great.
She was really good in this. And
Yeah.
McKenna Grace is always, like, I mean, for a child actress, she's, like, nails it every time, whatever she's in. So, yeah, I mean, Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. I mean, I think it's impossible for him to go into a movie and not like it at some level anyway.
Yeah,
So it's like, it already has that, like, Paul Rudd level up. Like it was starting at, like, a high point, with him in it. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling some people like it. I think definitely it will, I did like how it continued the story of the Ghostbusters we loved. But anyway, all of these movies we just mentioned in the entire franchise still, well, at least top this next one here. So I've been waiting. I had to pause my Amityville project because I literally could not get, Amityville Deathhouse was not streaming anywhere. I looked everywhere. I could not find it. The only way I could find it is if I bought not the Blu-ray, the DVD for $18. And I'm
my God.
I'm not spending $18 to have this thing in my collection, which most likely is going to be terrible. And, and it's on DVD, no less. Even if it's Blu-ray, I could kind of justify it. The monolith wouldn't, like, spit at me or something. So I'm like, it's got to eventually turn up. It'll eventually turn. So every so often I would check the site. But anyway, so I decided, let me check, see if it's on. And of course, it was on our streaming service of requirement. Tubi added like that, and then like all the other Amityville movies it didn't have. So I'm like, okay, good, I'll watch this thing. Oh my God. I am, like, I've never been so glad not to have purchased a physical Blu-ray or DVD.
So now we know why it's not available?
Yeah, this thing was... I mean, yeah, a lot of these Amityville sequels are just like, I've learned to accept that they're not going to, the house is long gone in it. I mean, now what they determine, what is Amityville to begin with in these movies are a stretch now. And this one, like, didn't even, like, I don't even think they tried to attempt. They even had the line, though, when someone said, oh, Amityville, and they go, oh, that Amityville? And I'm like, yeah, that Amityville, but you're not there. You're not even close. You're in rural farmland, okay? I live in Amityville, okay? There's no farmland here, okay? What you're looking at is like on the other side of the island. And and this one, I still don't even know how it connected to Amityville to begin with. Like, few do at this point. But, I guess because it took place in Amityville. And just it was such a weird things. Like, there was one point they go into they stop at this convenience store that totally was not a convenience store. I don't know where they filmed this in. But, like, literally they're in a thing that looks like almost like a hotel lobby or a weird lodge of some sort. And they just come up with all these snacks. And I'm, like, looking at them, like, and they blocked it so tight, like, on just the person at the front desk and them to try not to show that you were not in a store by any means. I mean, just little nitpicky things like that. But it was just, like, and the funniest thing is that they literally somehow, I don't know what they did. They somehow talked Eric Roberts into being in this thing.
Oh my God.
Yet he is completely hidden behind a mask the entire time. So you recognize his voice, but you cannot see his face. Maybe that was the agreement. Maybe they said, we'll pay you a lot of money. We need your voice and your name. And it's so funny because they know that, like, that was a draw to it. Because at the end, after I've sat through 70 minutes of this turd, they decide now to, like, almost do like a sitcom, an 80s sitcom opening where they show all the cast with, like, little scenes with them for, like, 5 seconds each. So we're right now reliving this movie yet again with little snippets. And then, of course, to go end Eric Roberts, So that was a way to pad the movie just a little bit. And then, of course, what drives me crazy is, I know some movies do that, where they'll show the cast with like a snippet or something from them or a face But then they go right to the cast again on the regular scrolling credits. I'm like, I get who's in it already. Stop telling me who's in there.
Oh my gosh.
But it was just so inexplicable. See, it's like there's this group, the kids come back. It's like from, I guess, helping a hurricane in Florida, and then they end up in Amityville because the girl decides to check on her grandmother who is possessed with some just like god awful. Like, I feel bad like panning this thing, but god awful makeup. Effects in this thing. It was obvious they just like literally put like, it was almost like the Universal. Remember that Universal used to have the monster show? They would pick someone from the audience and quickly put on makeup for them.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like this was. It was like that, like this woman got picked out of the audience, put on makeup, and was but then there's like other witch kept coming through. I supposedly, and I don't know. And then it started getting possessed, and then this one girl inexplicably like had her hand burned, and then she turned into a spider. I mean, things were going on in this movie that, like, if you blink away for 2 seconds, you're gonna be so lost in this movie that I don't even know what to do. But yeah, so nevertheless, though, I can check that one off my Amityville list. I forgot the next one. I think the next one is like the final chapter, something like that.
Spoiler alert: it's not the final chapter.
Yeah, it's not even close. But all I know is that there's one, and I mentioned this to Emily Sweet, because we always have that. We have that running joke with her with this movie. That it just brings me one step closer to Amityville Vibrator, which is now closer into every one I knock off. I just know that's coming at some point.
Oh my
No
gosh.
pun intended. It is going to be there. So that was what I'm up to now. I'm kind of glad the project's back, because it's kind of fun to watch these kind of like silly Amityville movies that they just literally put Amityville. It's like I really think I want to look at the totals, which has more, Amityville or Ouija. Next thing, I finally started to listen to the Talk Scary to Me podcast, which is hosted by, of course, some big horror final girls that we all know, and Danielle Harris and Scout Taylor Compton. Of course, in case you were under a rock, and of course, Danielle Harris played Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5, and in Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2, she played Annie Brackett. And Scout Taylor Thompson, of course, took on the iconic role of Laurie Strode in those movies. And I'll tell you, it's so funny because the horror talk is a lot less than I thought. They go into a lot of crazy, but it's like, I have to say, they are the most open and honest, real people. I swear, they just go in, they have no holds barred. They just go in, they talk about every kind of sex topic, every kind of emotional topic, and they flat out just open themselves up, and it's like with total confidence, and it's hilarious. It really is an entertaining podcast. I binged all of them already, and I'm all caught up. They take callers in, so they answer questions and stuff. So it's really cool. It does a lot, and they go a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes. They'll talk about with movies and what it's like to be an actress, and it's really great podcast. Did you get to listen to it yet? I don't remember.
No,
I know I told you
I
about it.
haven't
But
had a chance yet.
yeah. Definitely check it out. It's Talk Scary to Me podcast. You definitely will be highly entertained and get a lot of cool information.
Nice. All right, well, let's get to our interview this week. We interviewed Alex Grass, who is a horror author. And I'll tell you what, Brian, this was a really, really cool interview. Alex is a very fascinating individual. As you'll hear, he had a stint with drugs and alcohol, and he came through that. He's clean now. He's used that experience to kind of fuel his horror writing, and I thought it was just a fantastic story. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this interview because Alex is a really sharp guy, and some of the stuff and some of the insights he had I thought were really, really fascinating.
Yeah, no, I think you guys will really, really enjoy this interview.
All right, let's get right to it. Our interview with Alex Grass. All right, guys, we are happy to have acclaimed author Alex Grass with us tonight. And Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, before we get into your latest projects, though, I wanted to let our listeners know a little bit about yourself, or I guess in your line of work, we call it a little autobiography.
Okay, little autobiography. I'm one of 4 boys. I grew up beating the shit out of my brothers and having my brothers try to beat the shit out of me, which really wasn't achievable until they got much older. And by that time, it had the dynamic had psychologically set in. So I say that because it's really like a rough and tumble boys family. So the things that I love today, other than the idiosyncratic stuff, which is like, of course, writing horror, and reading horror and watching horror, my brothers have no interest in that. But the other stuff, we share an affinity for, like me and my brothers, we always watched strongman as kids, and we loved weightlifting. And I watched boxing with my dad, and he was a boxer, I was a boxer. So it's funny because there's a side of me that loves reading and writing, but if you're my close friend, you'd probably never get to know that, because most of the time that's not the sort of thing that I would be talking with you about. What else? Let me see. I guess the big news, even though this doesn't really count as background, is that my old man just got a new liver. He just got a liver transplant. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'll explain why I'm leading into that in a second. He got it in Minsk in Belarus. The reason he got it there is because he's a citizen of Israel, and Israel is not great with organ transplantation for the pretty specific orthopraxy reasons. When he was about to head over, and now he's been over in Minsk for about 3 months, I asked him, I said, have you seen the movie Hostel ever? And and he's like, no. I'm like, okay, cool. Just don't watch it. which reminds me of like my wife put on Soderbergh's Contagion when COVID first started. And I'm like, why did I agree to this? This is a terrible idea.
I refused to watch that once the pandemic started. I was like, no, I'm not interested in any plague movies.
But isn't that funny? When there's something horrible going on in the world or some horrible situation, there's always like a movie so like accessible, a horror movie accessible to like to stoke those fears, you know?
Yeah, I know. And I feel like, you know, like those horror movies are the proverbial, you know, like I told you so aunt in the corner tapping her foot going like, yeah, I told you it was gonna happen. Don't believe me. What do I know? But so back to the old man. So he's getting a liver transplant because he had a pretty rough go with booze and drugs, and I also had a pretty rough go with booze and drugs, and I'm open about it. And I'm open about it because what's happened since I stopped drinking and stopped using is that my life has become a tremendous joy. It's become a life that I really enjoy, and even beyond that, the things that I really love and that I'm really passionate about now, namely writing horror novels, really came on strong after I got clean. Before that, I was really not interested in fiction at all, except for maybe, you know, the real heavy hitters, the darkest guys, like I would say, like Dostoevsky, who I still love, of course. So in a very real way, I guess, I've talked about this before, horror fiction changed my life for the better, and even helped me address not just personal problems having to do with like sobriety and recovery, but it also gave me sort of like a framework to address the bigger issues, like you know, the nature of faith, theodicy, a man's place in the world, all that.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
I always love hearing when someone takes something like that and they get over you know, something hard in their life, and then now like succeed in whatever they want like that. That's so great that it, you know, and you could use, you know, you use all experiences in life towards that. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone has something like that. I'm just, you know, I'm not, I have dumb luck. Yeah. I always say to my dad, you know, I said, we're the anti-Job, you know, like, God has or whatever you want to call him, or it. God has like a tremendously dark sense of humor, and part of that dark sense of humor is mostly letting us get away with shit, I think.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense sometimes. You know, and sometimes you'll sit there, you know, you'll see people like, you know, you'll be having a bad day, and you'll just be like, really, you know, but like, you know, something like that. But then you get through it, and then, you know, you move on. So. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to ask you is actually, so it's funny you brought that up too with your brothers and stuff. How you were saying like, you know, how you were kind of into horror, but they really weren't. But so what were some of your early inspirations in the world of horror? If like, you know, especially when your whole family didn't kind of embrace it like that.
Well, you know, there's like sort of the stuff that I try and explain this to, you know, my oldest, my stepdaughter's turning 16. I try to explain that like there was a world where basically art was presented through 3 monopolized channels, being television, film, and let's say, you know, like literature writ large, and that would include, you know, multimedia like comics. And so there was a like a common framework for everybody. So, you know, even though the most passionate stage of my love for horror came much later, there was the stuff that like everybody read. You know, like if you went to the school library, Stephen King was there, and, you know, and Dean Koontz was there. And so I remember probably the first book that I read where I had to stop reading it at night because I was starting to get freaked out was Cujo. And it just scared the wits out of me because, you know, we had Burmese mountain dogs, and they were big dogs, you know, and like they were so, like impossibly sweet dogs, amazing dogs. But you know, when you're young, and this is sort of one of the things I appreciate about horror. Horror deals with sort of the unfathomable, the unreachable, the darkness that's out there in the void. You know, like that stark fear that you can't name, and it's sort of it exists in a much more serious way for children, because children haven't gone out to experience the world. So you know, and that always reminds me of like. There's I'm gonna mangle it, but there's a G.K. Chesterton quote, which is like, you know, we don't write fantasy stories because we want to tell children that the dragons are real. They already know that the dragons are real. We write the stories so that they know the dragons can be slain. And
I like that.
he was a pretty sharp guy. So there was common stuff. There was like. For instance, the Alien franchise. Here, you know, when I write, I'm very big into descriptive scenes for the monsters, and you know, the Alien franchise is hugely influential. And then I found out about H.R. Geiger because I was lucky enough that if my mom noticed that I was interested in something, you know, she would go to the bookstore and she would get me something. I mean, I had as a kid, I mean, I had hundreds of books in my room already, which like it was just sort of as I sort of hinted towards earlier, sort of incongruous, because you know, like I would come, you know, back from going to boxing, and my face would be all lumped up, and I'd be like, all right, I'm really excited to read Michael Moorcock now, you know, read about Elric of Milnebone, you know, and but the thing I found, especially now that nerd culture has mainstreamed, is that there are so many people like that. There's so many people who just like, you would never guess the things they love. You couldn't possibly.
I've got a buddy like that. I mean, this guy is social, butterfly, outgoing, party guy. You look at him, you think frat boy type. And, you know, when he's away from all that, you know, he's in Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy and you know, this and that, all the nerdiest things you could ever think of. But like from all outward appearances, and you would think this guy would never touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Because you just don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, no, and I was gonna say too, because like you know, back in high school, it's like when I was into all that stuff, like, you know, horror and Star Wars and all that stuff, it was like, you know, it was deemed like, you know, super like nerdy kind of thing to like that. I mean, I had my core group of friends, we all like that. But now I'm like seeing like, you know, you go on Facebook and I see like the popular, quote unquote, popular girls in school sitting there asking about like Star Wars, or, hey, did you see it yet? Did you see all this stuff? And I'm like, what? I said, now, you know, it's like you made high school was miserable and I had to like hide that stuff. And now you're like, you're out in the open. But
yeah. Because life is filled with little injustices, but they also have like a subtle nuance to them, so that they're a little bit funnier when you look back, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So Alex, I really want to ask you about your writing process, because I've dabbled in writing horror before. I've written horror short stories. I'm working on one right now that I literally started at the start of the pandemic, and 2 years later, I still haven't finished. And it's a short story. And I find that I could have written a novel by now, but I find that my problem is I tend to want to make every paragraph perfect. So I want to rewrite as I'm going along. And what I end up doing is I never get anywhere. So I was kind of curious about what your process is when you write. I hear a lot of authors say, you just need to get it on the page, worry about the rewrites later. Kind of interested in how you go about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's true what most authors say, but it's not, you know, it's not satisfying. I was certainly never satisfied when I heard other writers say that, you know, because it's not really an answer, you know, just do it, you know, just do it. What's your problem? Just fucking do it. It's like, all right, but how do I do it? By doing it. So, you know, do it. Well, I was lucky to have been in a field before I started writing fiction where I had to write a lot and I had deadlines, you know. So at law school, I worked for a professor, and then I'd write op-eds and shit, and I had been doing that for a couple of years. By the time I went to rehab and came out and started writing horror, so I think it's some of it is like muscle memory, and if you can get into the habit of just like jotting things down, it makes it easier, because there is sort of like a mental barrier. What, sort of once you get away from writing too much, your mind tricks you and says, like you lost the pixie dust, or you're not warmed up, and when you go back, it's going to be different, and you're going to have to work so much more. And that's just like 2-3 thoughts out of probably 50 that'll come to your head in nanoseconds, because that's how the brain works. But I used to carry around a little notebook with me, and sometimes I would just like write to write, because it's useful to get the stuff you're never going to use out, and to get the dog shit out, because that way you view writing as what it really is. It's not a big deal. Writing at the end of the day is storytelling, and storytelling has existed forever, and we all tell stories. The very nature of all social interaction is storytelling. Basically what I've been doing right now is I've been answering your prompts and telling stories about myself, whether they're like crude little short form snippets, or maybe like a little more analysis, but that's what we do. I mean, we talk about our friends. You mentioned a friend who's into Dungeons and Dragons. I mentioned my father. I mentioned my brother. So the capacity to be able to tell stories exists for all of us, for every single one of us. It does. Full stop. The barrier is getting pen to paper, or clacking the fingertips on the keyboard. And a lot of the time, the a concurrent barrier, the larger barrier, is writing the way you would speak. And people have a very, very hard time doing that. My wife, she just started med school, and I remember helping her through a lot of her pre-med stuff, and she would write essays, and I would just like, and she said, well, how is it? I said, it's confidently done. I said, but nobody talks like this, like no one, and it was actually compounded, because I found out since that in the medical profession, everything is written passively. So it's like purposefully written badly, I don't know. I have no idea why that is, but like I'm reading it and I'm just like, I don't even know. But I think that just the last tiny bit of advice I give, because it is storytelling, also, and I think horror fans already do this too, consume excellent stories, watch good movies, try and find new stuff that you're not used to, branch out beyond the genres that you love, because even though, we love horror, I'll tell you, at the end of the day, we don't love horror exclusively because of, the darkness and the monsters. We love horror because it puts a microscope over people working in pretty dark psychological states. That's really what we're looking at. We're looking at people combating the unknown and the things that can destroy them, and doing it with courage or without courage, just doing it out of obligation. And there are many, many, many stories like that outside of horror that you can learn a lot from. My 2 cents.
So we're going to get into your latest projects, but one more question before that I wanted to do. So as an author and a horror fan, so how do you feel about the quality of the movies that are based on the books? And what are some of your standouts for, the lack of a better word, like get it right? Because there's some, obviously, people are like, say, oh my God, I read the book, this was great, the movie was horrible. What do you think of those? And then if you have any standouts that you think like did the book justice?
It's real tough, because like the second question for me sort of negates the first question, because it's like or vice versa. Well, I'll tell you what I mean. I'll tell you what I mean. When a filmmaker creates his version, I think that people are unwilling, fans are unwilling to let go of the original material, and filmmakers are not doing a visual transcription of a book. That's not what they do, for many reasons. Some, especially length. This is why like no one's ever satisfied by Dune, because if you read the book Dune, there's worlds in there. There's worlds beyond worlds, and everyone is interesting. At least for me. And so, like, to take the prime example, which is like Stephen King, because he's probably had the most, books to film or books to television series made. Every Stephen King book past Christine, with a few exceptions, is like 100,000 words. 120,000 words. That being said, you can still keep the spirit of the book. And I think that the most recent iteration of it, or like, the It Squared iteration, it's pretty good. It's like, I forget Machete. Yeah, he is pretty good. And I think it comes through when people are fans, and so I think that's why I give a lot more leeway with like John Carpenter, because like John Carpenter cares to get it right, So I don't know if you could include this properly in the genre, but like I think Guillermo del Toro's work for Hellboy, which has horror elements, is it's very good, But I think the overall answer is that like most of them don't get it right, because most of the time that's not what they're doing,
Yeah, I kind of knew that might be a little challenging, especially someone so close to, being a writer and everything, knowing that. But yeah, and Tim is the one I go to a lot for that, because he's definitely the bigger reader out of the two of us. I'm definitely like, I'll watch the movie. I mean, since the pandemic, I've read more probably than I have and since like high school when I had to, But so it's like I know Tim is like always, usually he's the first like one to kind of make comments about it. To me, he'll be like, well, like I think he said it was something with Dr. Sleep. You said, oh, they left out a huge thing or something. You told me.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the movies, you kind of have to. The movie has to be good on its own merits to be good. You can't. I agree. I don't think you've ever seen a completely faithful movie adaptation to any book.
Exactly. Like when I watched the most recent version of The Stand on CBS, this is just my opinion. If you liked it, that's fine. But I'm like, this was going to be a turd in any universe,
I quit after the second episode, if that tells you anything. I didn't even finish it. So
it was like so bad. I don't know.
Yeah. What was the one, Tim, you really didn't like? You told me was the Dark Tower, the one you said was really off or something?
Well, the movie? Oh,
yeah.
God. I don't even want to talk about that.
King fans hate that movie.
I pretended it didn't exist. I still pretend that. So, yeah. So, Alex, I want to get into your latest projects. And the ones I have listed here are Drek and A Boy's Hammer. So tell us about those.
Okay, sure. So the newest one's A Boy's Hammer, but Drek is my baby. That one, it's bizarre, but I put so much of myself into it, and it came early on when I had some of those life changes. So Drek is basically set an indeterminate time, let's say somewhere between 200 and 300 years in the future, after what the equivalent of World War III has happened. And so the world is rebuilding itself, but not quite in the ways that you think it would. I mean, like a lot of the things that people predict about the apocalypse turn out to not be true. Like cities and states get their shit together, but they divide along new lines. So they're like religious and political figures, and they're grasping for power. And in the midst of this, restructuring society, you have this figure Drek. Drek appears at the end of the war, in one of the final theaters of the war in Syria, right? And he appears out of nowhere, and he walks through this portal, and he turns around, and he just walks right back in. And slowly but surely, every soldier who's there tries to test the portal, and each one that tries is struck dead instantly. And then a field expands around the door, and this is the one remnant of the Long War, which is what is called as essentially World War III. It's the one remnant that never goes away. So it's a constant reminder, and it's taken as a very, very dark omen. Now, over in what used to be Pittsburgh, there's a war veteran named Frank Atanasio, and he's one of the, one of the only morticians in the state. And so he's sort of put upon and really, really worked to the bone, because he has to serve the function of like the mortician, the coroner, basically anything death related. Because for whatever reason, who knows, that profession doesn't have that many people that it can put to work. And one day, this figure Drek, who's been sort of like the scapegoat for this entire post-bellum society, and he's grotesque too. He's like sort of he has huge antlers, tusks coming out of his head. He has a beard, but it's like it has like cilia and flagella, and it's sort of like luminescent. So and the eyes glow too. Is very much like a deep sea predator, like the anglerfish with huge dragon teeth at the very bottom of the ocean. And then he has 3-fingered hands, and he's like this mangy, disgusting elk's hide. And so he not only represents that bad omen of these soldiers being killed after the armistice, but he is repulsive, genuinely repulsive. But no one's ever been able to track him down. There's like sightings, there's he's a mythical figure. And then one day his corpse shows up in Frankie's morgue, and as Frankie's dissecting it, he starts to go through a series of very, very, very bizarre dreams. And the dreams blend with reality until he's not sure quite which is which. And everyone is vying for Drek's corpse, because there is some power in this corpse. Obviously there's some obvious power, some otherworldly power. If you can essentially go through a wormhole, by opening a door in Syria and appearing somewhere else, then obviously there's something untapped in terms of energy, and maybe like the things that we don't understand, that we can't describe, that would basically be magic because we don't understand them. And the story progresses until you have religious zealots, the mayor of 7 Points, which is Pittsburgh, and the new federal forces all trying to get Drek's body, and Frankie's trying to sort it out. Beyond that, I can't give you much, because I think it ruins the story.
What a premise. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. But of course I loved it because I wrote it.
Well, and it's too, because I, growing up, like my family was Jewish, so I've heard the term Drek a million times from my grandparents and stuff.
Yeah.
And I use it to this day all the time. In fact, a friend of mine at work, we constantly use it. We go like, oh God, we got to deal with this Drek today. And it's like, so when I saw the name of that book, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Right off the bat. And what you described sounds exactly like, that's exactly what like it would think, like if there was a person named Drek, what he'd look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm Jewish too. So, my grandparents, at least on my mom's side, were able to speak Yiddish, but Drek sounds a lot better than Spielchus. So
yeah. Spielchus sounds like what Drek would like spit out, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No one's gonna fear a monster named Schmutzik,
Yeah, yeah, that's like the guy that like just hangs out, when he overstays his welcome, but he's kind of hanging around.
Yeah, exactly.
So, did you want to tell us about A Boy's Hammer? Or did you want to save that? Because it's not out yet.
No. I mean, it's coming out pretty soon.
Okay.
But the it's a lot more straightforward. But the concept of Boy's Hammer is a boy and his mom are flying over to Helsinki, Finland on a business trip, and they completely disappear in sort of like an electrical storm in the sky. 20 years later, there's an explosion at a Philadelphia refinery, and a man who's just absolutely beastly, you know, like I don't know, like Hathor Bjornsson, the Mountain in Game of Thrones, but like a lot more punch drunk and covered in tattoos, you know, like a dedicated meth head. You know, I was gonna say Aryan Brotherhood meth head, but you know, like I don't want to think he doesn't hate people. It's just the tattoos and the muscles. You know, you know. But he shows up, and the Philadelphia homicide guy, his name's Detective Jefferson O'Brady. He used to work missing persons, and he's trying to unravel this story. And at the same time, a figure appears in the city who's committing murders that are basically impossible to commit. What that means is forensic evidence will be left in one place that's 2 hours away from another place, and it's so solidly usable, the evidence, that basically the police are trying to come up with a theory of why a murder can be committed, surely by the same person, you know, 20 miles from one crime scene to the next. And the figure that O'Brady and that the big tattooed man, whose name is Alan, are squaring off against is basically a resurrected serial killer who was imprisoned for life in the Suomenlinna jail system in Finland in the late 19th century. And he was one of the first serial killers from Finland. And beyond that, well, a lot of what ties into this is you'll be able to see many of like the mythical figures, and sort of like a more, you know, modern day settings. But you'll see Ukko, who's sort of like in Finnish mythology, he's the proxy of Thor. He'd really be probably more like Thor and Zeus combined. You get to see, you know, Ilmarinen, who's he's like the Finnish version of like Hephaestus or Vulcan, who he makes these tremendous weapons. And the ultimate enemy, the figure, the demigoddess, who's setting up this whole battle to come between the forces of chaos and order, is Kalma, and she is in Finnish mythology the queen of the underworld and of wretched stench and filth. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I think it should be out in like 2 weeks or so, I hope.
And I saw Tim, like, when you were saying all that mythology, I saw his eyes like widen, because I know he's really into that.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, but now these are 2 books I definitely want to grab right away. Well, obviously I have to wait 2 weeks for Boy's Hammer, but definitely going to grab these 2 because they sound really cool. So with several of the books written, then what would be, what do you think, if any of them would take the next step into another form of media, like, you know, a movie, TV, video games, etc.? Which ones would you think you would want to put forth like right away?
Honest answer, I have no clue. But I'll give you a better answer. Like, I think that, you know, that artists should mostly have nothing to do with interpreting their own work, you know, because I think when they go back, they ruin it. I always think of like the South Park episode where the kids go to see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and and Indiana Jones is being raped by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. You know, this like you know, you're never that person. The second you're done creating something, you're already not that person. You know. That being said, probably Black River Lantern would be the easiest to do, budget wise. People like carnivals. It's sort of like, it's a lot more like psychokinesis and that sort of stuff. I mean, doing something like doing fantasy well is so hard. I don't know how anyone like reads a book and then decides to commit themselves to doing that. Like I see like The Witcher, or I see like when Peter Jackson did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I just like, why would you do that? You know? And I liked him. I liked him very much. I'm just like, I can't imagine the work and the frustration and just, you know, living a life where like you're set up, you know, to be assailed by, you know, like all the fans of basically the Godfather of fantasy, you know, like Tolkien maniacs. I can't get my head around it, you know. Fantasy's hard, so Boy's Hammer would be out because it's more like dark fantasy.
I could see that in a video game though. That sounds cool. That could be a cool video game though.
You know what? I don't play video games at all, but a friend of mine sent me like one of those like all cut scenes. And I watched one for one of the Halos, and I was like blown away. Oh my God, I had no idea. It's just so funny that, this stuff like, of course I played video games when I was a kid, but I came back to it now and I'm like, oh my, these are really like fucking movies, man.
Oh yeah, like the production value and stuff now is like, I mean, really intricate stories.
Yeah, and they get like legit, like actors and actresses.
Oh yeah,
Hollywood
like legit voice actors. Yeah, for sure. I mean, millions of dollar budgets for these.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing is like they're in a strange way they're less limited for the cutscenes because like. Well, I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's like Tim, you're a gamer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe it's like maybe for gamers, it's not just the cutscenes, but it's like the play itself that's very important. So maybe like you have more leeway because as a gamer you're sort of focused on the play, and so like you're not going to be. It's the cutscenes aren't the whole product, and so if it's like a little off. In terms of what you're looking for, it's not going to destroy it for you, like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Right. Yeah. I can see that.
Well, so nowadays it's like the graphics are so good. You literally like I remember back in the time when you could tell when a cutscene was a cutscene.
Right.
And now it's like some of it is so seamless. You don't know, like you're really into a game. Sometimes you don't know when you're supposed to start playing because it goes right into it. Like that. What was that one we were playing? That one was crazy because it was like this full on movie and then you just like start taking over spots and you don't realize
it's just zoom out and you're actually still like you're still in the game.
It's crazy. Yeah. So it's like, it's yeah. So that'd be cool. But we'll definitely, we'll keep an eye out because once we read the book, we can send you video game suggestions.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
We'll say, all right, he likes this stuff here. They play this.
Yeah.
So Alex, I want to give you a chance to talk about anything you kind of have in the pipeline. Do you have anything after? I know you're probably got your hands full releasing a Boys Hammer here in a couple of weeks, but do you have anything else that's kind of brewing?
Oh yeah, always. I usually got like 4 or 5 in the hopper. I won't talk about them just because I'm a little strange and superstitious that way. But
no, we don't want to. Don't want to jinx it.
Understandable, but just I guess we'll suffice it to say there's more to come.
Yeah.
Oh, always. Yeah. I think, fingers crossed, God willing, probably see 2 to 3 every year.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, though, we wanted to give you the opportunity, of course, to let our listeners where they could find all your stuff and where they could like follow your career, I guess. I know on Amazon is one of them, but is there any other places, like any websites they can follow and make sure they're up to date on all your releases?
Goodreads. I'm on Goodreads. That's about it. Yeah. I'm sorry. It might. I have a PR guy and he's just like always annihilating me.
Hey, I use Goodreads.
Yeah. Well, Goodreads is that, like if you love books, I'm convinced that all you need is Goodreads. Because I feel like you really can keep up to date. And it's the people on there, like they're discerning and they really care, maybe sometimes too much. I find that like the Goodreads ratings on books that I love are like a solid 20% below what they are on Amazon, and that's crazy to me because Amazon already has the stuff where like it has nothing to do with the product, like I read like someone trashed, War and Peace, and it's like my book arrived late. And I'm like, well, Tolstoy didn't send it.
I know, that's why I always feel bad like whenever I get like something will come late. The first thing I want to do is like I'm going to leave it maybe I have to review it bad, but I don't want to review the object bad because it's fine. But like, how do I? It's like one of those things. It's like, where do you do? Because you don't want to like hurt the work.
Yeah. Well, it's like. That's my big bugaboo with the reviews, because like I looked at something like I got mouse traps in the last place that we lived, right? And the mouse traps had 2 stars, and I went down and everyone's like, these are inhumane. And I'm like, they're fucking mousetraps. Like, okay, like you don't like them, but they're doing exactly. I mean, you're angry because they're doing a great job of the thing they're supposed to do.
Yeah, the reviews are funny. That's like a whole like that could make a whole TV show in itself. Just someone reading reviews for products on there that like really just don't really make sense with the thing.
There's such good ones, you know, and it's like you can always tell when it's like someone who's like my mom's age, you know, just like because like they'll go through a whole thing and it's like, you know, the product was great, it works so well. I will never buy another air fryer again. And the delivery man smelled like marijuana so bad, so bad, and then like 1 star, you know.
My favorite is when they literally will give it 5 stars, but then bash it underneath. I'm like, make up your mind. I mean, like now what am I gonna do with this? You know, it's like you gave it 5 stars. What? So you like appear at the top? I don't understand. And now you're gonna like write this whole thing in there. I can't believe you now. You know, you've lost all credibility.
Yeah, it was so confusing.
But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. Though this is cool. I'm definitely gonna check out those 2 books. Probably gonna check out all of them. I'm very Tim will tell you I'm very loyal when we ever get guests on and then we find out about their stuff. I'm like all about trying to get like all their stuff, like their movies and their books or whatever.
That's great, man. Well, you know, make sure to email me first because, you know, you don't have to spend the scratch. I get author copies, you know. So,
well, yeah, I want to make sure you at least get some thing out of it. So all our listeners go order it then. We'll make sure Tim and I will read them and then give you a review then.
How many books do you have out right now, Alex?
Well, as soon as 3 right now. When A Boy's Hammer comes out, it'll be 4.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, so you guys listen up and go check those out.
Yeah, we should post a Goodreads link in the notes.
Yeah, because I definitely plan to. Those sound really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm just letting everybody know I plan on opening a general delivery man Amazon page. So if you have delivery problems, you can go and rate that page instead of the book.
Nice.
You know, like just like all, and you know what? You can use it for anything. Just go do that for in-laws, for the neighbor that lets his dog shit on your lawn, for politicians you don't like. We're just gonna put that.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, I do. I like that. Yeah, and I'm already thinking of now how that could become a horror movie because then someone like gets revenge back on it. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, or the comments manifest into demons. You know.
Oh, even better. Yeah, there we go. See. Look at that. Now, Tim, now you guys can collaborate on a short story.
You know, Brian, talking about things always cooking. Brian's always got a movie premise cooking. So
yeah, it's always in my head. Like, that's just the way it works. And ask me how many I've actually written down to paper.
That's the hard part.
I got a 1-star review on my effort apparently after the idea phase, but yeah, I definitely have some good ones I need to get down. I tell you though, every time we talk to like an author, like like yourself and stuff, I always do get inspired right after. So hopefully I can use this now, and Tim could use it and finish his short story before
Yeah. It better be the best short story ever to take 2 years to
write. It does. So. I'm dying to read it, but he told me I can't read it till it's done. So,
well, this is the measure that I set, and I find this is very achievable, you know, and it makes me very happy if I continue to think of things this way. If a person can read something that I've done and enjoy it the way I've enjoyed pretty much anything else that I've found serviceable, then I've done all right. And I think the same could be said about any other artist.
Nice.
You know,
I like that.
You're making somebody happy. You've done all right.
I like that.
Nice.
I like that.
The Tim's like, all right, Brian, I'm hanging up. I'm gonna finish this right now.
Yeah, I'm motivated now.
Pumped.
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate it, Alex. You're welcome back anytime. You whether you have something to promote or not, just want to hang out and chat hard. Just let us know.
Far out. I had a great time, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Brian. And once again, one of the benefits of this podcast is getting to meet interesting people that I would have never probably met otherwise.
Yeah. No, and you know what I love too? It's like we get a lot of questions we've always wondered asked. It's like we get to actually ask like creative people like their processes and what inspired them. And to me, that's always a fascinating thing when I hear it on other shows and other podcasts. So I'm kind of glad we get to be on that side of it and ask it ourselves. That's really cool. And his books sound awesome though. We gotta pick those up and then read those, especially the Drek book sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on picking those up shortly. I'm kind of in a book backlog at the moment, but as soon as I get through this latest batch, that's the next on my list.
You have a book log.
Yeah, I definitely have a book log. All right, well, let's get to our feature film this week. It was Superhost, available on Shudder. This was from last year, directed by Brandon Christensen, starring Sarah Canning as Claire, Osric Chow as Teddy, Gracie Gillum as Rebecca, and the great, legendary Barbara Crampton as Vera.
Yes.
Synopsis: with their follower count dwindling, travel vloggers Teddy and Claire pivot to creating viral content around their most recent superhost, Rebecca, who wants more from the duo than a great review. So I will tell you this, this discussion is going to have, I'm going to say mild spoilers in terms of the overall plot structure. I will say I'm not going to give away like individual events, but if you don't want to know anything about the overall plot structure, go watch it first.
Yeah, I mean the trailer gives a lot of it away.
Yes, yeah,
so you know what you're getting when I don't think you're going into this movie being going, oh my god, that happened.
Yeah, I would say don't watch the trailer. The trailer pretty much
don't even watch the trailer. Yeah,
but I don't say ruin this movie because I really liked it.
Yeah,
but I'll
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, ruin any surprise. Yeah.
So the whole deal with this movie is you have Teddy and Claire, who are these two travel bloggers. They're on YouTube. They've got a show called Superhost, and they basically go around to these like Airbnb type places and review the place to for viewers out there who would like to know more about maybe staying there at some point. Typical thing you would see on YouTube anywhere, and they do a really good job, I thought, of replicating that YouTube style with the funny graphics and they did just a spot on parody of that. And so they go to this place hosted by a so-called superhost, Rebecca, and Rebecca's called a superhost because like she has so many great ratings or whatever. So that's what makes you a superhost. And it's this beautiful cabin out in the, I don't even remember the state or whatever they're in. I don't know if they even said, but it's out in the wilderness.
Yeah, I can't remember if they said where it is. I just know that I'm like, oh, damn, I want to stay here.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this really beautiful place. They go there. Of course, they're filming. And the whole thing about this is sort of like in Deep House, very similar in that the couple is kind of struggling with their subscriber numbers, and they're trying to get their view counts up. And so there's this whole kind of back and forth between the couple on, how are they going to get their viewership up? And much like Deep House, there's some kind of internal strife between the couple, between Claire and Teddy about, what kind of importance do you put on that kind of thing, which says something about social media these days. Like how much importance do you put on likes? How much importance do you put on subscribers?
Yeah. And I think it's like they do a good job. Like the fact that there's always one of the people Teddy's more like, okay, it's bad, but you know what, let's enjoy life too.
Right.
Kind of thing. And she's like, no, it's all about the number, to the point where she's like missing life. She's like totally roped up in that, like that fake world, supposedly.
Yeah. And that really hit home to me because I tend to not dwell on that stuff too much. Just in general, I don't really get too freaked out about, how many subscribers, how many likes, how many this, how many that. I try not to get too caught up into that kind of thing.
Well, that's easy for you to say, Mr. 1400 malignant quote.
Yeah. That was a pleasant surprise. But yeah, but at the same time, it really made me think about it, in a way that I had not thought about it before, in regards even to this show. And I'm thinking, it got me kind of going down a dark path of the same thing that Claire was going down. Like Brian could tell you, because I was texting him back and forth. I was like, oh my God, like this made me think about this. And it made me think about that in relation to this show, which probably shouldn't have, because this is a horror movie and it's a parody. I don't need to be applying it to real life. But it was interesting in that, I guess my broader point there is that as social media has come about and now we're starting to make horror movies about social media, it brings up interesting questions that you can kind of look at your own life and go, oh my God, like what am I I'm sure there's people out there that probably watch this movie and go, oh my God, what am I doing worrying so much about my subscriber count after seeing the way Claire acts in this movie?
Yeah, and she's like, I mean, to the point where like, it's like I have to say she does a good job of both her persona. Like she goes from this like really like unlikable kind of sour but when she goes on camera, you would think she's the happiest person in the world. And it's like, you wonder, like, you can't, you see all these people on, like, like I said, we watch a ton of travel bloggers. So, we've seen all from the really good to the really cringe to the just lackluster. Yeah, we've seen it all. I mean, with the amount of stuff we watch on there because of our theme parks mostly. And, theme park blogger is kind of like a different thing altogether because, like, I feel like there's some weird, crazy competitiveness in there that doesn't exist in the regular travel blogs. I don't know.
Right, yeah, I think so.
I definitely think they do a great job at portraying those kind of people you'll see do a travel blog, and it's like, the whole thing, and like the whole, like with the click, like the tagline is click, like, and survive, which I thought was great for that. But, they always do like the, with the thing like, make sure you smash that like button and, and to the point of like, all right, we get it.
Right.
We get it. You want us to subscribe. You want us to like it. But to me, when people say that in their videos, I'm like, oh, that's usually, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to subscribe to you because you're. And
they're always shouting like Joshua and Anna are, well, Joshua more than Anna now, but Joshua watches YouTube videos all the time, and I feel like they're constantly screaming, and I'm like, do you not have a proper mic, or do you just have to scream at the camera? And it's like constantly screaming. We're always having to tell them to turn it down or turn it off because and it's smash that like button, blah, 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 and it's like just at full volume, and it drives me insane.
Yeah. It's funny too, because my little niece, like, they would put on YouTube like kids videos for her all the time. And like, so basically anytime she watched a show or a video, she'd always go, click like to subscribe. And like, she'd literally quote that. And like, it's on a regular show where you don't obviously have that. I mean, I thought it was cute. My sister-in-law was like, oh, stop encouraging that. Cause I would always say, click like it. Cause I'd want to get her to say it. Yeah. Cause it was cute. But yeah, so it's like, eventually it's like, it's going to push people over the edge to where you're going to lose subscribers from being too much what you like. And I think, without giving a spoiler away, like, when you watch this, you'll see what happens at the very end of this movie. And to me, that is so accurate because it's basically, it's hard to talk about without flat out giving the little bit away. But let's basically just say, when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It basically, how people will do things to, like specifically to kind of garner the attention away. But yet basically when everyone tries to do it, it all becomes the same, and people tire of it. And you know what? It's a lot of pressure on people. I could not deal with that was my full job of income like that. I would never be able to make it. I would be too stressful.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I actually like the podcast the way it is. It's our outlet. We're not getting paid. We're not under kind of pressure. We're not, other than our own, the one little bit that we put on ourselves, we don't probably even remotely come to what someone would consider like in that level a huge audience. But you know what? I enjoy it. We enjoy having the time. We enjoy our, like, we may not have the most, but we sure have the best group of people. I mean, we interact with some of the coolest people since doing this podcast.
That's exactly right. And the thing is, I never want the podcast to feel like work. And I think there are people where the podcast is their job. So that is work. Yeah. And that in that case, you are under a tremendous amount of stress because that's your source of income. If it's not your source of income, but you're having people pay for your product or you're having advertisers, that's another source of stress because you're still having to deliver that content. Whereas the way we have the podcast now, it's free. It's completely free. We produce it completely free to everybody. So there's no pressure on me necessarily other than what I self-impose to put out a show every week. I put out a show every week because I want the podcast to be successful, and I believe consistency is the key to success. And that's why we put a show out every week. But I don't owe anybody a show every week. Well, we could quit for 6 months if we wanted to, and
Cody might kill us.
We could quit for 6 months, and we don't owe anybody anything, right? So that's kind of there's kind of a freedom there, which I think makes the podcast a lot of fun. Not to say that there's people out there that don't have fun, making a living at it. It'd be great, if this podcast generated enough money for me to make a living. Heck yeah, it'd be awesome, but. I agree with you, Brian. I think it's kind of nice to have this as more of a kind of a side hobby type thing and not be obligated to get clicks and get likes and click subscribes because that stuff would probably drive me insane.
Yeah, no, like the kind of, and I know myself, the kind of person I am, I'm already hard. I mean, you see all the time. Sometimes I'll get in those funks and I'll be like, it's our show, but I feel like we can only get to answer to ourselves really, and we we ask people, we take all suggestions that people have. Like that fan topic foo, I think was kind of Cody kind of came up with that, right? Did she come up with the title or the idea? She came up with us.
I don't remember
for that.
But it was,
I know she was involved in the in part of it. I don't remember the full thing. Sorry, Cody. You can correct me later. We'll talk more about Conan and his octopus fears also. But that's what I think. What I like about it is that like, we're out there. We're doing our interview. We're doing everything that like the big podcasts are doing. It's just we're doing it on our own terms, and I think that makes it feel fresh. Makes it feel I feel excited to do it. I mean, like yesterday when we had the interview, like Tim was like exhausted from like a long day at work. I was fighting like the sinus migraine for like 3 days, but like I still like. The fact that, like, you told me to do anything else, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it last night. But with the podcast, I just get that little bit boost of adrenaline I need to go and do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah. I think something Alex said during the interview that you guys heard was he was talking about how, if one person reads his book and it makes him happy, he's done a pretty good job. And that's kind of the way I've started to look at the podcast is, when we're doing the podcast and we're sending it out there, but you hear somebody come back, like one of our listeners come back and say, hey, I thought that episode was great, or, whatever. That little bit of feedback definitely keeps you going because it reminds you that you're putting something out there that other people are entertained by. I mean, that's not a small feat. That's not something that's necessarily easy to do. So if you can do that for, even a handful of people, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to put on your resume, I guess. So
yeah, and you heard Jeff Tucker actually in his latest episode. He gave us a huge shout out on it, and he even said he was like how impressive it is that we were over 200 episodes, because like he's like he goes he's someone that like he talks about, if you talk about podcasting with him, you're getting it from someone who's there from the beginning of podcasting and has seen it all, done it all. And so the fact that he was impressed by it, to me, I was like, what better kind of a stamp of approval could you get?
Yeah. So let's turn our attention to the performances, because I want to talk about what I really, really liked about this movie first. The performances in this movie are fantastic. I mean, these are just like top notch. I loved everybody. This is a small cast. You got 4 people in the cast, right? So, but every one of them was so good. I was really, really impressed. And, of course, the attention's going to be on Gracie Gillum, who plays Rebecca, because she's like the crazy one. She's the crazy eyes. If you see her in the trailer, she's definitely got the crazy eyes. And she was fantastic. But, to make that work, you also have to have the others turn in a fantastic performance so that she could play off of that. So I thought just everybody in there was just phenomenal. Yeah,
she was so good, though. Like, okay, so most horror movies, a lot of people like the so-called villain, or the, like in the slasher movies, you're rooting for the killer because of the stupid teenagers. Well, and this is, it's kind of got that like little bit of the same thing where it's like, the main Claire's character, she's kind of like not really that likable in it, in my opinion. She didn't come off as likable to me. No. And that's not a bad thing. I think she wasn't supposed to come off as super likable. So, it's like I really wasn't like. I was like, and the fact that then Gracie Gillum comes in there and goes like, she goes from like just cuckoo to crazy to like batshit crazy, right. And she got such a great way. Like I was literally rooting for her the time, because I was like, like I always kind of have this like I feel bad for sometimes for like the crazy people and the people like her character where maybe she's just kooky and then like people drive her to this. Well, in without spoiling certain things, it's like she's not exactly like that, but her crazy, and she was so good. Like I was like rooting for her because I loved how good she was playing crazy, and I was like I want to like it was like I hang out with her is not the right term because I'd probably get killed, but. You know what I'm saying? Like, she'd be someone to be, like, so cool to watch like that. Like, just because she's so off the wall and she's so good at it. Like, but not, like over the top, but in an over the top, the right amount over the top. Does that make sense? They even talk about that. The movie is Claire and Teddy are like, man, we got to get more of her because our viewers are going to love this. They're going to eat this up because they're going to want to see this kind of crazy person. Now, I will say this is where
some spoilers will come in for you guys that don't want to hear how the movie plays out in a general sense. And this is the problem I had with the movie. I loved everything about the movie. I liked the plot. I loved the performances. I thought the whole social commentary was really, really good. The problem I had with the movie is I thought they missed a golden opportunity to make this movie stand out. As it stands, if you've watched the trailer, you pretty much know how this movie is going to play out, which is unfortunate because it's a very predictable plot.
Yeah.
And I was really upset because halfway through the movie, I thought they were going to do a twist that I thought was so brilliant that I was going to absolutely love this movie, because in my mind, I had this whole twist plotted out of what was going to happen. And I was like, this is going to be freaking epic. This is incredible. And then they didn't do it. They went for the safe, boring, predictable route. And I'll tell you what it is, Brian. So there's a point in the movie where Claire and Teddy are losing subscribers. They know they've got to do something to get their subscriber count up. And they're talking about just what I just talked about. They're talking about how more Rebecca would probably be a good thing because she's this kooky character, and that's going to, that could potentially drive their numbers up. In my mind, I thought, how brilliant is it going to be when Claire and Teddy turn out to be the crazy ones, the bad guys.
Oh, that would.
And the reason I thought I thought they were setting that up for that is because when Barbara Crampton comes in, she's talking about these people ruined my life, they ruined my career, I had to sell the house, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they're foreshadowing that Claire and Teddy are really the bad guys. And that they basically, Barbara Crampton's not crazy. Her life was literally ruined by Claire and Teddy, misrepresenting her. And so what I thought they were going to do is that I thought Claire and Teddy were going to misrepresent Rebecca and try to, even though, she's a little eccentric, she's a little kooky, she's not crazy, because she's a superhost. She's got tons of great reviews. How did she get all these great reviews if she's completely batshit insane? So I thought Claire and Teddy were going to try to frame her to make her look and appear crazier than she actually was, and in doing so kind of ruin her life. I thought that would be a brilliant choice. I thought it was a brilliant twist, and then they did nothing with it. They threw that all away and went for the safe, predictable route, and I was literally kind of dumbfounded that they had set everything up, what I thought was the perfect dominoes to fall in that direction, and then they didn't do it. They basically discarded it. You never really get an answer as to what happened with Barbara Crampton's character and how Claire and Teddy ruined her life. You never really get an answer as to how that occurred.
Yeah, I mean, it probably ended up being something just like a bad review, because they were so they probably saw something they could exploit, how they were joking about the cat room, and stuff like that. They're probably just joking on it so bad that it made it a really bad negative light, and they probably just said something that in their mind, all they're thinking of is, okay, this will be great for the viewers, not realizing how it could damage the business. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was simple at that level. And here's pretty much a major spoiler. So again, we warned you, don't. But one of the theories I have, so I think they mention that a bunch of the listeners, one of the listeners suggested they stay there. And they said, thank you so much, so-and-so, or followers, sorry, not listeners. Followers said, stay there. So my theory is what they did was that person that suggested with either Barbara Crampton or Rebecca, the superhost, so they basically brought them
lured
there.
Them there,
so lured them there purposely with the attempt to kill. And I think, that the thing is with, it's funny because there's that weird little I mean, at this point we're spoiling the movie. There's a weird little plot that Rebecca and Vera, Barbara Crampton's character, hatch, and then that turns sour quickly. And it's of course, Barbara Crampton is, even for her little screen time in this, is just steals the everything because she's so awesome. But so I think that was I think the whole thing was set up that way. So I think that's probably why they didn't go that way, because I think that was the plot they kind of had planned previously to go that way. So I think with that point, although I like your idea a little better because that would have really twisted it.
Yeah.
But if you don't catch those little nuances, that may, and remember, this is me seeing the whole thing now and then going back and reflecting. But you're like, if what Tim says, keep what Tim just said in mind if you watch it too. You'll kind of see where they are kind of teasing that as at the same time. So either they might have just like attempted to try and get that as well, that you to think that, but maybe they just didn't do it perfectly or strong enough to really sway it enough. So I don't know, they went the real direction. But the thing is, there's so many like little like there's so many like teases and stuff to how this thing is gonna like some of the hit points in the beginning, so they kind of obvious like with that camera, right? So they know, like they basically establish in the beginning that this house is like filled with cameras all over it, and that they could talk to it. So it's like, okay, so astute horror viewers like, okay, so that's gonna be a challenge later on, because now they can't hide anywhere in this house because she could watch them on camera. And they don't try and hide the technology factor. So most people with those cameras can literally do it on the phone. So she could be following them in the house and seeing where they are,
Yeah.
So it's like, so you're not going to get that hide and go seek thing for very long. Even if it tries out, I mean, she's going to find them. So that. So, all these things you're picking up on. So you're kind of still wondering, like, well, what's going to happen? And I have to say, like, the ending sequence, like, really wasn't drawn out at all. Like, it was quick. There wasn't like this really drawn out chase. I mean, any slowness was a deliberate slow to, like, on purpose. Like, it could have ended even faster.
No, it's a nicely paced movie.
Yeah, I think Gracie was like intentionally like, kind of delaying certain things just to be more like, I guess, to torment them just a little more.
Yeah.
But overall, I actually really enjoyed it. Like I said, the cast was a big piece to it. Grace Gillum, I don't know how. I don't think she wasn't nominated for any of the chainsaws. I guess it would have been this year's, right? I don't think she was nominated, right?
I don't know.
I have to look through that because I already saw a major snub on the Chainsaw Awards, like I always have. I think we'll save that for next episode. I'll go through I'll prep that for our next episode, but we'll go through the Chainsaw nominees, because I know that one off the bat, I thought. I guess I can tease it now, was that the Stylist is up for best I guess first feature, but yeah, Jill Sixth, she goes by on social media, it's I think Gavazian. I always mispronounce her last name, I apologize. She was not nominated for best director though, and Najara Townsend I thought was so incredible in The Stylist, but wasn't up for best actress. So I don't know. I know there's a million. Last year was a big year for horror, so there's a lot, to go. But there's always going to be a snub or always a miss on these awards anyway. You can only nominate so many people. But yeah. I don't know. I thought Najara Townsend was so good in The Stylist, and she deserved a nomination. I was shocked actually when I saw that she wasn't. So I have to figure out how they vote on those changes. So I can get on the board there.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I mean. Again, I liked the movie. As critical as I was that they didn't take that twist, I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely worth your time on Shudder. Yeah,
oh, yeah,
definitely good, and just for the performances alone, I just thought were great. Most of my criticism was where I kind of wish it had gone versus where it did, but that's not really a fault of the movie itself. So, Brian, right. What did you do for our beer pairing this week? So
I knew it had to be some kind of social media-esque beer, and I like combed for hours to get a funny one, but I couldn't. I ended up stumbling upon this one, and it's called Wait Till the End IPA. And anyone that watches YouTube videos or little videos, how many times you see that little video, and it's just like wait till the end, and half the time nothing happens. But but still, it's definitely a big social media video terminology. So I decided to use that, and I thought that was a good good name and a good type for that. So. The brewery is Cloudburst out of Seattle, Washington. I got to talk to Seth, see if he can get a hold of this actually for me, because he's not that far out of Seattle.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And, basically works for a beer distributor, so he might be able to get a hold of this for us. It's 6.7%, and I'm going to read to you their description.
This is a great description.
This is a doozy. But this is great. Yeah, I'm going to try and read it with the same kind of passion I think they wanted to write. Oh, hey, what you scrolling? You on the talk? Cool, us too. We tick the shit out of the interweb all day, every day. It's kind of a passion. Like you can find anything on there, and it's all like 5 seconds long. And some of these things make you laugh, some of them make you cry, some are boring, some are weird. But our favorite videos are the ones with the twist ending. Like this brewery is making an IPA and talking about the hops they use. And it's like Citra, yeah. And Mosaic, the best. And then when they drop a bomb on you with the Columbus Cryo. Columbus? WTF, bro? My dad doesn't even think that shit is cool. He's hashtag seems centennial, by the way. So then you start wondering, are you being played? The joke's on you? But then it's actually not, because this old OG dank hop in modern form is actually legit. Like blood orange, flesh meets sappy, sticky pine resin that'll leave you shook thinking about all the life and heavy stuff for like 5 seconds. And then we go down the wormhole. More content, please.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's...
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but that shows why I will never be a YouTube personality, because I know I butchered that worse in our Civil War theater. But yeah, so anyway, I think that was still, as far as beer descriptions go, good, props to them for such creativity. Yeah. You know, I love like when they just don't do like it has Chinook and Citra, followed by a Maltese blend. You know, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I like when there's a little story.
I like when they do the creativity there.
Yeah.
All right, so our triple threat trivia question last week was a movie. The answer was Promising Young Woman. I have not seen that yet, actually.
Oh, you got to see that. It's so good.
I need to see it. I've heard nothing but good things.
Oh my god, it's Julie watches it all the time. She puts it on. It's really good. I mean, Carey Mulligan is like,
I love
my
it.
god,
I love
she's
her.
like off the charts great. And in this, it's such a great cast. And it's so good. It's got your girl next door crush, Alison Brie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I gotta watch this one.
So you gotta watch it just for that.
All right, so clue number 1. When my director was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Director, it had multiple first-time distinctions. With this film, Emerald Fennell Fennell, maybe?
I think Fennell, yeah.
Is the first woman to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director for a debut film. Also, this film makes Emerald Fennell the first British woman to be nominated for the Oscar for Best Director. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good distinction to have.
Clue number 2. 2 of my stars definitely had a glow about them. And as Brian just mentioned, Alison Brie and Christopher Lowell appear in the series Glow together. That was the 2017. I love that series, by the way. That was a great series.
Oh my god, I am so disappointed that it ended prematurely. Yeah. That was one of my favorite shows Netflix ever put out there. I just loved that because it was like, I mean, it was just so cool, and it had such, you know, when I first saw it and it was just gonna be about like women wrestling, I'm like, all right, I like wrestling, I'll give it a try. But it like went into so many other cool things, and I think that's what was like really cool about it. And the characters were so compelling, all of them. You know, they all had their own things. And it was really cool.
Clue number 3. I was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, but only won 1. Promising Young Woman was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress for Carey Mulligan, Best Director for Emerald Fennell, Best Editing for Frederick Thorvall, and Best Original Screenplay, Emerald Fennell, which was its only win.
Yeah, you definitely need to watch that, Tim. I think you'll really enjoy this movie. It's really, really well done.
Nice. All right, so this week we're looking for another movie. And this is a good one for you guys, for you horror fans. Clue number 1. I was a very popular 80s horror film that also had a pretty popular remake. Clue number 2. Although a true sequel for me was pitched, it was never made. However, an upcoming fan film is going to take care of that.
Astute Civil Gore listeners should know the answer to that.
Clue number 3. It happened to be Quentin Tarantino's all-time favorite slasher film. I would have gotten this one from clue number 3 because I'm a Tarantino fan, but so I knew that one.
Yeah, and he's mentioned it a number of times. I've seen many interviews where he's mentioned that, so should be easy. That should be an easy one. I gave you a couple of hard ones in a row. That one should be really easy.
Yeah, that's definitely a gimme. All right, so we have a new fan topic food listener question from David McHugh, Horror Mailman on Twitter, and this one is right up our alley, Brian. This is a theme park question, and it's very simple. What's your dream theme park trip? And I've got a quick answer for this one. It's a doable one. Now, you might think my dream theme park trip would be, I want to go to China, I want to go to Japan, and all those would be fantastic.
I think I know what it is. I'm going to see if I can guess it.
Yeah, I think you're going to know, Brian.
I'm not going to say it. But I'm like thinking in my mind. I'll tell you if I had it right.
Okay,
I'll be honest. I won't.
I mean, that would be the easy answer. Japan, China, or even maybe going over to Europe and doing all theme parks over there. No, mine is much simpler than that, and it's much closer to home. I just want to do a West Coast trip. That's all I want. I want Disneyland. I want Knott's. I want Six Flags Magic Mountain. I just want to do that whole West Coast trip. I've only been to the West Coast twice in my life. Both of them were business trips to San Francisco. Never saw anything outside of the city. Never really saw much inside the city other than the inside of a convention center. I want to do the full West Coast experience and get the whole California adventure, if you will.
Oh, touche. Yeah, I that's what I had guessed for you, because I know you and I have discussed that.
Yeah, and it's gonna happen. That's a trip that's gonna happen. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, at some point, I'm sure when Julie and I are moved back out there, you'll come to visit.
Yeah. So that's a real easy one. It's a dream, but it's a very achievable dream, and it's one I fully plan on realizing in the next few years.
Yeah. So mine's probably gonna be more generic in that way, because just because like of course I grew up going to Disneyland, and I've been to both Disneyland parks, both Disneyland, California Adventure, and then I've been, of course, to the Florida Disney World and all their parks. If right now, I think there's 2 parks that top my list for specific parks that I want to hit, and that's Alton Towers and Europa.
Yeah.
But I also am dying for many reasons to do a Japan trip, and involving all the the parks there and some of the ride. Just there's so many iconic, legendary attractions over there, and I just want to visit Japan to begin with. So plus, it's like it'd actually be hard, because I probably wouldn't even get even remotely the amount of theme parks that I'd want to on a Japan trip. So I remember when Julie and I were actually planning one a couple of years back. It was before the pandemic, before we had a little puppy, of course. We were thinking of doing a Japan trip, and we kind of had it so we were able to put 2 parks, and I think we were going to do Fujiku Highland, and I think it's like funny. She said she goes, you probably want to definitely do Tokyo Disneyland. I said, well, if it's only 2 parks, Fujiku Highland definitely on there, but I also, because that base of Mount Fuji, it's really cool, like looking park as it is. But also, I said if I had to pick, I want to do Tokyo Disney Sea, because that supposedly is just an amazing park, and it'd be weird to not do actually Tokyo Disneyland, but it's like I'm going across to Japan. I'm gonna want to see Japan. I want to see all I can of it. Of course, theme park is part of it, though. So but I don't want to dedicate more than a couple of days to it. It's just because then it's at some level it's like I'm missing so much, even though I'm getting so much. But yeah, I think like park wise is definitely I think Europa and Alton Towers, just because and we'll have a great tour guide if we go to Alton Towers for sure. Our good buddy Matt from Yorkshire will give us the royal treatment. He'd probably make sure he'd be waiting for us at the front gate with a nice cuppa of Yorkshire tea, prepared the proper way, a nice proper brew, and he'd show us it it'd be like we'd be getting the keys to the kingdom over there. But yeah, there's definitely, and that's the other thing too. It's it's hard, because when you go to these those, one of these days I would love to do one of those coaster crew trips that they do, like the ones that Dan, our friends Dan and Sue and Adam and Chris went on, where they they hit every single park, and all that. They had the best time on there, and it's but it's it was 2 weeks, and that's hard to justify sometimes, especially because we have family in different coasts, so it's 2 weeks, that means I'm probably, we're not going to take much of a trip to see, to go, to California. And, now that I have my family out there and Julie's family out there, it's hard. So it's so one day I would hope to be able to do a trip like that, though, where I do one of those, coaster crew coaster trips, around a country or something.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of, by the way, of fan topic food, we are getting dangerously low. I think we only have a couple left. So hopefully I have a plan should we ever run out that we could quickly pop in there. It's no problem. But I do enjoy the ones sent in from Cody and John and, of course, David McHugh. I love the ones that they send in, too. So still feel free. I know David said he had a bunch for us, so
yeah, definitely send those in, because I really, that's one of my favorite parts of the show, actually, is answering the off-topic questions, or sometimes on topic, which is fine too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we will see you back here next week. We will have our second part of the February dismemberment, which was too big to put into one episode. So look forward to that as well on Tuesday, tomorrow, as you're hearing this, and hope to hear from you soon.